Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Before we introduce our guest today, Joe's going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to unite people of service with organizations of service. And we do that by having amazing people like our guest today on our show.
So our guest today is Joe Beveridge with Russel Hampton, who just so happens to be our show's sponsor. So we'll get to it. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
We'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
Before we dive into our guest today, Chad's going to remind us of our show's sponsor.
Our sponsor, Russel Hampton Companies, which is connected to our guest today, is the number one printer for Rotary licensed gear in the country. Well, and world, excuse me.
Yeah.
You can find them at russellhampton.com or bestclubsupplies.com. And they give 10% of all proceeds back to Rotary. So we're excited to hear more about Russel Hampton. We want to thank you for being a sponsor of the show.
Well, welcome, Joe. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
We always love to introduce our listeners to you as the guest. Do a little get to know you on the front end of this. And so let's start off with, where are you located?
All right. So the company currently is located in New Century, Kansas, which is basically just a suburb about 25, 30 minutes from Kansas City. So we are almost exactly in the geographical center of the U.S.
Look at that.
And you said currently. Is there plans to change that?
No, gosh, no. It just the company with Rotary, was founded in 1920 and started in Chicago with Club Number One. So that's why I said currently, because we started in Chicago. But yeah, we're in Kansas City now.
Beautiful. And how long have you been a part of the company yourself?
I believe I am rounding out my 18th year here at Russel Hampton. So it's been a bit.
And you're the president right now. Have you been the president the whole time, or did you kind of work up through it?
Work up through it. I came in fairly fresh out of school. And so I had one real job, if you want to call it that, out of college, using my engineering degree for a minute with JB Hunt Trucking Company. And it was, great company and really enjoyed everybody I worked with. But that I was actually looking for another path and had met my wife and we were newly engaged, and my father-in-law asked if I had any interest in potentially running my own business someday, and no pressure, come try it out. And so that was 18 years ago.
Wow.
And so I've done about every job in this building in some sort of way.
That is so cool. Now, when he had actually posed that question initially, what was your initial reaction?
Were
you like, I think I know where this is going and I should probably respond?
Well,
or were you like,
better marry his daughter first?
Yeah.
A lot of faith in me. Yeah. Nothing like, being their only option. So, no, I was excited. I had a bunch of really entrepreneurial friends. We were always into, different schemes here and there. And a lot of my buddies all did end up owning their own businesses and things. And so I knew, it was always kind of part of our vision. I just never had the what in mind. And so I was extremely open to it. Although I liken it to, having kids. You can think, I know what that's like. I know, but until you get in there, oh my goodness. So, but it's been a good journey. Still going.
And so for our listeners, fourth generation business family or family business. And then, so you're the first one to marry into the business, correct? Like, so were the other generations direct business or direct family?
Believe it or not, generation 2, 3, and 4 are all son-in-laws.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did they all turn up mysteriously disappeared at one day?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well, earlier, I mean, in historically, back in the, when the company was founded in 1920, I mean, it just didn't go to daughters because that just wasn't, the culture of the times. And then there were generations in 3 where they had multiple sons and daughters, but they felt that the best fit was my father-in-law. He was currently running a small business of his own at the time, and so he sold that and moved the family at that time to Chicago to run Russel Hampton Company. So it's not by design by any chance. It's just kind of how life has happened. And so people are like, oh, are you grooming your daughter for that? I'm like, no, I'm not that fixed up on it.
So when somebody comes to take your daughter out for a date, you're like, are you business minded by any chance?
Right, yeah. Oh gosh. She's 14 and she's got boys chasing her. It's just, I don't know.
You're like, it's too soon to call it. So
keep cleaning the shotgun right in front of them, right?
Oh my God. That's just the thing. Like, my wife's way better at that. She's like, this one's a nice boy. I'm like, okay, and odds are at this age they're not going to last more than a couple weeks anyway. But those middle school relationships.
We have a daughter of our own. Yeah, we have a daughter of our own, and so I'll
boys are chasing her already. Yeah. She's a year old.
Yes. Yeah. Joe, I am curious, where did the name Russel Hampton come from?
Sure. Yeah, so this one being one of the strange but true facts of the day. The story, as I've been told, is so my wife's great-grandfather and a business partner started Russel Hampton in 1920, and they wanted to keep their names and egos out of the business. So they had a map of the United States out in front of them and covered their eyes and pointed to the map, and one landed on Russell County, Kansas, and the other landed on Hampton County, South Carolina. And that is your strange but true fact for today.
Are you guys located in Russell County now?
What's that?
Is Russell County where you're located right now?
No, we're in Johnson County. Russell's I think a little further out in a little more rural area, but I mean, just coincidentally, we're in Kansas as well, which
So for those aspiring business owners out there that want to create a name, just grab 2 locations on a map, and there you go.
Yep,
put them together.
However you want to do that.
It's got a nice little ring though. I love it.
Yeah, very law firmish,
Yeah, for sure. So you had mentioned that there's a tie with Rotary, obviously. So how did that relationship come to fruition?
Sure. So again, back in 1920, there wasn't an easy one-stop shop to get stuff for your Rotary clubs. And so essentially that's what moved my father or my wife's great-grandfather and his business partner to start Russel Hampton. Was they just were tired of running around the city trying to obtain supplies for the club. They thought there should just be a simple one-stop shop for all these items. And that was what did it. That moved the needle. And that honestly, that's never changed. Like that's still the whole driver is to be a one-stop shop, to be a super convenient resource for clubs, because with clubs changing, having the changeover of president, most clubs every year, it's there's a lot that goes into it, especially since we're volunteers. It's not like that's the only thing we have to do, and so really trying to be there to provide that and make it really simple and not an extra task is still what we try and do today.
Go ahead, Chad. I've been asking a lot of questions, but I'll table mine.
I know from doing some stuff with our club, it's also there's very strict brand and you have to have the right logos and everything on it. So having a place that can kind of help you navigate that probably is really nice, because that's just even printing a sign, you got to make sure it's on brand approved. And so.
Absolutely.
How has the business changed over the years? I mean, with, more digital marketing and more competitive landscape, I imagine. How has it changed for you guys?
You think you're muted,
Jim? I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
That's okay.
So yeah, obviously over the years, products have definitely changed, styles and technologies. Technology's been the biggest thing, as you mentioned. So with a company that goes back over a century, that was, you should see some of the stuff here, the way it was made, when it was with drafting paper and you had layers and copies for print ads and just artwork for trading banners. But then you get into, they didn't, going back to the an 800 number to when everything was in black and white, when you had a color catalog, that was the cool thing. That when you went from typewriters to computers to the internet, it's been a massive, just change after change. But yeah, definitely. And being just purely a mail order. Could you imagine? Like, we used to get all of our orders in the mail. And we still get at least one order a year is faxed in, believe it or not. So
it's never gonna die, I guess, this thing called fax.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say you get a lot of, do you still get mail orders?
No.
No, you don't. Okay. Yeah.
You can imagine. I say no. Nobody's told me about it, but I would.
This may be a silly question, but obviously you have Rotarians within the clubs that a lot of them have their own businesses. And so do you see those Rotarians using Russel Hampton for their swag, their specific products?
So technically, they're supposed to, because, we carry a license with Rotary. And as you mentioned earlier, we're very dialed in with Rotary's brand and their guidelines. And I'm not here to tell you that the guy or gal in a club doesn't follow it to a T and do great work. But I've definitely been to, number one, they're just not supposed to do it, because as you mentioned, all of our sales per our license agreement, a minimum of 10% goes back to the organization. So when people are ordering elsewhere, you're basically taking 10% away from Rotary. Not to sound really detrimental.
I'll rephrase my question. Okay. So say I myself have my own business and I want to order swag.
Yeah.
Or an event that's it's a non-Rotary.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I wanted to make sure that I clarified on that. So have you seen fellow Rotarians who have their own businesses then use Russel Hampton's services for, swag items, sure. T-shirts, apparel, for events of their own to represent their business?
We have some, and I thought it would be easier to connect the dots, but I literally would be, this happens all the time, by the way. I'll be at a pets conference, and so you have hundreds of president-elects like, oh, this stuff is great. I don't know where I could get this for my business. And I'm like, literally, where do you think? Like right here.
Hi.
Oh, you could do that for us too. Yes, we very much could. So, I don't know. I don't understand the disconnect. And honestly, though, for a very, very, for probably close to a century, we were not allowed to market to Rotarians outside of just Rotary, that we do anything else without, was against our license agreement. So, but that has been a recent change where we do have Rotary's blessing. They would love for us to provide these things to them outside of the Rotary marketplace.
Well, how nice is it that you can be on this podcast show too, which is, it's aired.
Do you hear that, everybody?
Nationally and globally, all, so for
use
all
the
of y'all
promo code.
That's really nice too, that you've had that since revamped with your with your contract.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
it is-
And honestly, that was on Rotary. Rotary did that on their own. We didn't have to do anything. And that was very kind of them for sure. And I think, again, with just natural changing with times.
Yeah.
Well, you've kind of identified a real opportunity of something that you could communicate to Rotary to better facilitate those relationships. And, if there's something that Rotary can do to connect that dot a little bit better, because truthfully, I'm like until I actually did real digging into the brand, as I'm like, oh, they're just like, because it kind of stemmed off of Rotary, like it was one and the same. And I'm like, oh, it's kind of Rotary's internal printer, right? And then you're like, wait a second, no.
It's a full-fledged business entity on its own.
Yeah, and that's interesting as well. I mean, because there was the ties and they go back so far. A lot of times people do think that we are either a part of Rotary or when there's still a lot of other licensed vendors out there. So it's not uncommon where somebody orders something from one of our competitors and then they mail us the check, which is great. No overhead. Just kidding. We send those on, but yeah.
Are you in a Rotary Club down in Kansas?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's a community here called Olathe, Kansas, and I belong to the Olathe Noon Rotary Club. Absolutely.
Feels like it's an obligation. Versus
right? Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty built into the whole deal.
That would be weird if I wasn't.
World's largest supplier for Rotarians itself, and you're like,
and he's a lion.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I figure you're at events all the time, right?
Yeah. My attendance is probably not the best, but I definitely do. I do belong. In fact, my club is swinging through here sometime this week because we have a golf tournament next week, and of course, coming to pick up a bunch of swag for the swag bags because I won't be there. Unfortunately, I would love to be there, but with every club worldwide entering year end and doing awards and recognition, this is our really extremely busy season. So yeah.
Do you go to the international conventions as well?
All of the North American based ones we do.
Yeah.
And that's purely cost driven. Back in the day, they used to go to all. And so, my wife's like, oh, it's great. We went to Singapore and we went to France and we went to, they've been to Scotland and Australia. And I'm like, we haven't been anywhere. But the cost of freight is just light years different. And they took different things and not nearly as much. Like for us to go to an event, we'd have like 10,000 pounds of merchandise. Well, they used to we'll put it in our suitcases and we all carried a bunch. I'm like, that wouldn't even fill up like a fraction of what we do. So anyway, long version, no.
Doesn't that feel like a write-off?
I know. Well, the freight is insane. Just even to the show that was the COVID 2020 that was supposed to be in Hawaii. If we're not quite as organized to have it months and months and months in advance to put it on the slow boat. So to do it and to send it was like, I don't know, something $20,000. And that might've even been one way. It was something crazy just for freight. That may have been I have to check with shipping on that, but it was just like, yeah, we're not going to go to that. That's insanity.
$217 for a tumbler. Shipping's included.
I've only got 5. Do you want them all?
That's a real thing. So talk a little bit about some of the challenges. So you guys are a printer, but you're sourcing your products from all over the world, right? So, I mean, talk a little bit about how COVID, played a fun role in that. I mean, did you see a lot of disruption? Did you see, talk a little bit about how COVID impacted your business and how you guys adapted to that.
Sure. So obviously, there were, COVID affected everybody differently. And I watched some companies here locally like, hey, we're going to support them, like local restaurants that really nailed that pickup thing, especially early. Like, oh, we want to support them. And they're like, yeah, we're not taking more orders for a few hours. We're so busy, and And I think every liquor store in the freaking country did great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But with us, reliant on obviously the Rotary side with clubs meeting and doing projects and doing things. I mean, we had I think the first month we were down 80 to 90% of sales. I mean, it was brutal. And then we have our corporate side, which same thing. Whether they're doing trade shows or you have construction type crews that are out that are using shirts and hats and whatever. And so just both sides got hit really hard. And that was one of those things where as much as, you want to complain about, government and people don't get along or not do anything, I will say that coming through with all of the PPP funds and things like that, really, I mean, we are, we're the largest provider to Rotary clubs worldwide, but that does not put us in an Amazon scope by a long stretch. We're a small family owned and operated business, 30 people here, that we do all of it out of our we'll call it our international headquarters here in Kansas.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it really, we're the type of business it was meant for. And we're very grateful for that. And we got through just like a lot of people and learned a lot. And we did transition, the masks and the hand sanitizer and some of those types of products where we could continue to function and send things out. And now we have a bunch of boxes of masks if you guys want any.
No, thank you. I'll let that one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Might as well save them. You never know.
That's right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anyway, it was crazy. Although, the silver lining for me personally was, you go to your work every day and we work hard and we love what we do. We really do. But, man, the pace of life was so relaxed. We'd come in and we'd have our masks and our sanitizers and other orders, and with the spacing, and we have so few people here in that, we were plenty more than 6 feet apart. But I mean, we probably put in a half day. Yeah. And then well, I don't even know what else to do. So we go home and there was nothing that you could do really. So everybody was outside. I swear I saw my neighbors out. My dog loved the pandemic. I mean, she said, another walk. So that was great.
That's great.
I got a note here. I'm just going to switch gears. I got a note here that says, if you call the business, you will get a member of the team on the phone that can help you. You want to talk a little bit more about
left
that?
turn there, Kelly.
I know.
I used to get
We're done talking about COVID.
So that's something we love. I mean, not only will you get somebody, but you'll get the person that will take care of you from start to finish. They're not going to go back and do your embroidery or your engraving or your printing, but they will literally see your order through from start to finish. And, there's certain companies where you can pick up the phone and get a hold of somebody, and there are others where it's like, now press 4. And your call is important to us. We will eventually take it, and you sit there on hold forever. And so for us, and trust me, especially on our corporate side, I've had people like, well, why wouldn't I just go online and get the cheapest thing I can find? And and that's not necessarily wrong. That's great. That's a good fit for them, but we're not. We're very relationship driven. We want those, whether it's a marketing person, the treasurer or secretary from a club or whatever, like that values it. I want to know what I'm getting fits what we're trying to do, that I trust the quality, that it's, that's on brand, all of those things. But they also don't have to do it. They make that one phone call or send that one email and know that that's what we do professionally every day. We're going to send them a bunch of options that not only are great and personalized specifically for them and what they're trying to accomplish, but then also within budget, on brand. So we call it high touch, high trust. And we really take a lot of pride in that. So, yeah.
Very nice.
I enjoy that business model.
We look forward
nice.
to our searching for service swag.
Yep.
Lloyd, if you're listening, I'll take a size medium.
So will Chad.
Yeah. Make sure you accent.
Chad, you had a question?
Oh, so you have 30 employees. So that's from production on up to management, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the change in technology and all the different things over the years, we've added and subtracted multiple things. But that's also one of the differentiators is, particularly on the corporate side, if you've ever tried to order certain items, well, the minimum is 250 or the minimum is whatever. And that's a great model. You don't inventory anything, which is, you don't have the overhead, you don't do the production, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the maintenance, all the staff, all the things that go with that. And we definitely do our fair share of large orders where we do the brokering and the design work and that type of stuff. But we also do a lot where we do the warehousing, the fulfillment, and the production and with the things that we can produce. So whether it's your Yeti or off-brand tumbler that we laser etch, we print on, whether it's a shirt or a hat or a bag that we embroider on, any type of thing like that, the minimum quantity is a single piece. And so, your one piece unit price is more than your larger order, but your overall investment is much, much less. And so, and that's a really nice thing for, clubs to be able, I just need 2 badges. I don't need, and so the fact that we can make those and we turn them really quickly. I think, at peak season where our lead times are starting to grow a little bit, but typically if it's something personalized, whether that's a name badge, an award, that usually takes about 4 days max. And again, that's from order to ship. We don't count transit time in that. And then if it's something we pull off the shelf, that's 2 days. So, and that we're
pretty incredible.
Yeah, it is.
We'll be getting closer to 10 business days here in the not so distant future as things really ramp up, because you guys have all been to Rotary events, maybe ran some, those registrations come in at the tail end. And so everything is always, and so year-end awards and ordering recognition is no different. Those will be coming in. May gets busy and June turns into complete insanity. But
well, maybe take a moment. You talked a little bit about the staffing and how it's changed over time. My guess is you guys have begun to automate some of the processes and some of the, the things that would make sense to automate and where technology makes sense. Being that high touch, high trust company, how do you balance that? Because that seems like that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be dealing with in the years to come as automation becomes more sophisticated. Is how do you envision keeping that high personalization and high touch in like the world of AI?
Sure.
Yeah,
I get you. And that's a great question. It varies too, because if you just if it's something you order repeatedly, it's simple and you can go online, point, click, order. There's not a lot of that interaction, that relationship, other than the fact that because we worked together for so long, that the quality's there. You've had the service, that's there. Part of it's demonstrated through. You don't even see it. A lot of times because there's so many people within the organization and turnover as far as who's an officer, things will come to us in various formats. And you might place that order online and not have any contact with us. That goes straight to production and our production team will pull up the previous files and say, this doesn't match, and they may take that to customer service to have them reach out to you to make sure this is actually as intended. Or often they'll just call you directly. So a lot of times you'll get somebody straight from maybe engraving that's calling to ask about an order. And that's definitely that high touch, high trust. And then, some of that stuff, you still, particularly with something custom, they're reaching out. I have an event and we have a theme. What would be great? And those products change constantly. So I mean, some of that stuff's hard to get away from, and some of it's not. I mean, AI is, one of those things where it feel like it changes every 30 minutes. So, I mean, it'll be really interesting to see how we can continue to marry stuff like that into, to add on to that feel.
Yeah.
So when you're, with a history of Rotary, I know when we met, probably a year ago or 6 months ago, you talked about that the business is modeled off the 4-way test. How do you guys kind of bring that into the day-to-day and what you guys do in interacting with customers?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's interesting. I have a little side tangent from that is, when I don't know, it was probably 8-9 years ago now, but we were just kind of with a business that's been around so long, every so often you're like, okay, let's make sure that everything we have still rings true. And so I put out to every employee, I said, I want to start just at the basics. Like, what are our core values? And they, more than half of them came back with almost identical to the 4-way test. And I think that's part of the reason that Russel Hampton's been able to continue to survive for that long, is because, you have that basically at its core integrity and respect, and treating people the right way, doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking. Like, we don't have to call anybody to say, is this really what you meant? This is what they put on paper. We could make it and send it out, and they could be like, oh, this was what I wanted, and we could sell it a second time. But, that's just not in our makeup. It's our company purpose is really simple. And it's quite simply providing an exceptional experience. And, we don't, exceptional, what does that mean? It doesn't mean glitter and fireworks. It just means, we do exactly as we say we are. We do it when we said we would, how we said we would. We deliver every time. And so you wouldn't believe how special that is, people, I needed this in 7 days, and you guys had it to me in 4. That was amazing. You said it'd be there, and it was. Like, it's just, people are dependent on things, and a lot of the time, like I said, it comes in hot, and so, but we deliver. Everybody here genuinely cares, and that's really awesome. So
that's a great mission to have collectively as a company. I mean, company culture is probably one of the most difficult things to develop. I mean, it's ever changing, and it sounds like that you guys, modeled the 4-way test. I mean, it's why Rotary is still around too, right? Like there's a core set of values and things that we all understand and believe, and it sure makes it a whole lot easier to deal with any kind of adversity when you're all playing from a similar platform of, this is what we believe in, and this is what we hold true, so that it creates a foundation to be able to deal with anything.
Right. So, and it's I love it too, because its simplicity is that it makes it easy, especially from that providing exceptional service standpoint. Now, I'm not quality controlling because, I'm making sure that's right, because I'm quality controlling because that's part of that service. When it gets to shipping and they see that you selected UPS whatever, and we can get it to you through the postal service for half that price, and it still meets your need by date. They can go ahead and so it's not, exceptional service isn't just that person on the phone taking your order. I mean, that's at all levels of the business. And so I love how simple it is, and how it opens, opportunities for all of us here to get involved with that.
Yeah, very cool. I agree. And I think, from running a business, the simplicity is hard to get to sometimes, but when you get there, it really keeps people on the same page.
Yeah.
From start to finish. What do you print the most of?
Oh,
we've gotten some stuff, and I see the stuff we have at our club. I was like, what's the number one volume you do?
Well, I mean, out of all the things that go out, I mean, I would probably say lapel pins. I mean, there's just so many, and specifically the member pins. You have member pins and name badges. I mean, every club has that, right? And That's a ton. But obviously, trading banners and I mean, just it's a lot. Yeah, absolutely.
I got my little Rotary pin on right now.
There you go.
Yep. And then there's, when the theme's announced, which may not be a thing anymore, as you may or may not have heard, but that was always a big deal.
Probably not the best news for you guys. Like, dang it!
Yeah, we'll have to adjust.
Adapt and overcome. Just start putting the date, like the year, on everything. 2024, 2025.
So some of that, there's that increase there of sales after it comes out. But then, to your point, I mean, every year we do our best to forecast and to watch sales. But it's like, well, this year they really liked this item, and so we have dated items that we eventually okay, well, these have to be written off. We try our best to look at, well, what are our lead times, how many we have to order for minimums, but it's not an exact science. But I think ultimately we'll have to figure out what we're going to do to replace that. I'd be interested to see how it goes, because that was the one thing every year at the International Assembly when the theme was announced. I mean, it was like a rock concert. They had a huge hall with governors from every country around the world, or at least Rotary member country. And I mean, I was not lucky enough to actually be in it, but you had the huge screens that take up the whole stage, and you could hear it. There's music and lights, and man, afterwards those doors open and they come out, and they're just, there's nothing that I've experienced that created that much energy within the organization. So I'll be interested to see if that energy is still there.
Yeah. Well, or even what they end up like what is the thing that they're gonna do or say that replaces that, so that they can still maintain the energy levels.
Yeah. Well, I felt like too, it's kind of like with anything, you have a class, it's like anybody that was in a fraternity or sorority, they had their fraternity class, like that group of people, it's a bonding experience, and I think they'll probably have something similar. But when you show up at an event, if it's a district event or a club level event, but you see, then they used to have, jackets like blazers, so he's like, well, there's the burgundy, and that was a certain class, there was the green, and there's, and so it just seemed to be all of those little things. Really was a bonding, unifying event. And so I'm sure there'll be something that still keeps those people tight together. But I feel like it's just cool to see that energy and how it really brought all the people from the different districts together.
Yeah, we'll see if it's something that comes back. Not everything that we change stays changed.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe they're like, "Ooh, that wasn't a good idea."
We'll lobby for you, Joe. We'll lobby
back
for you.
Yeah. Much appreciated.
Well, we're getting towards the end here. We got about 5 minutes left. Is there kind of anything, advice you'd give to Rotarians or, in general around business that you think those is important for listeners to hear?
Well, I would say something that isn't necessarily around business, but around clubs, So one of the things that I hear repeatedly, and I have for the 18 years I've been here, is when we go to the multi-district pets, there's just, you have people that have been in Rotary for a while, and particularly the ones that are usually like bid club secretary. They come to the booth like, "Oh, Russel Hampton, we love you guys. Order all our stuff here." They're in the know. But you have an equal number, or probably even more so, that they come in and they're like, "I didn't even know this stuff existed." So I feel like that's an issue, not specifically on a self-serving, you got to order from Russel Hampton, but the fact that, our members don't know that they have branded merchandise available, like we're spending the money and the time and the effort and energy to be in Rotary, to be like, "Oh man, if you like a Rotary coffee mug or even a Rotarian at Work t-shirt or something simple," and so I think that the lack of awareness is rough. And then from from just a branding standpoint. And then the other thing that I like to visit about is on the membership side. You know, it's like everybody's been in Rotary has heard membership, and you know, my whole thing is, and I'm a little hypocritical because I'm not at Rotary. My attendance has been rough with the business and the travel, but you know, I feel like if we take pictures at an event and then we post them afterwards and we put them on social media, we're feeling like that's a win. And I'm kind of like, you know, our own members don't know stuff exists, and people will fully admit, well, I don't even know if there's a club in my community. And that's actually in the People of Action campaign. You can read it. It says like of the 70% of people that have heard of it, tiny, you know, fraction even knew, like I think something like 70% didn't even know if there's a club in the community where they lived and worked, which is insanity. And so we're like,
Yeah.
we have a membership issue. We have an awareness issue. Like people don't know it's there. I mean, it's like trying to cold call all day, right? And so like if we have events or meetings and we're just constantly putting out there, hey man, and you know, in 3 weeks we're participating at this event. You know, you don't have to be. I'm doing it with the Rotary Club. You don't have to be a member if you just want to give back. You know, come join us. And so I guess my hope would be that ultimately, whether they're interested in Rotary or not, they would know like, oh man, Joe Beveridge is in Olathe Rotary, and they're doing these projects like every couple of months, and they're inviting people. And so that might resonate with them. It might not, but somewhere down the road, you know, they might run into somebody that, oh man, I'm looking for an avenue to give back, you know, oh, Joe Beveridge, you got to talk to him, you know? And so that's kind of like, how can we just put it out there and be more, you know, inclusive up front? Like, hey, come join us. Not the hard sell of Rotary, but we're participating in these events and we would love to have you be a part of that. So anyway.
Well, and to tie into, you know, make a tie-in, is it Alex Johnson? Is that right? In Texas?
Okay.
He talked about how for every single service project that they'd do, they'd hand out Rotary t-shirts to everybody involved. And that ended up growing their club because, you know, people would see the shirts and people would feel like that they were included into the, you know, the group versus, you know, feeling like an outsider. So kind of a nice little link to you kind of plug that you can be plugging into clubs is, hey, get these shirts. Like we want to help.
Smart.
We want to help membership get these shirts. And maybe there's something you can do with those shirts in terms of volume or whatever. But, you know, kind of a nice little full connect.
I think they had some of the highest growth in the last 2 years. And that was the number one thing he talked about was having that shirt that they give as they invite others that are non-Rotarians to their service projects.
We should find out we should really find out if it was indeed Alex Johnson.
It was.
And then make the connection, just make sure that he's utilizing
I'm sure
Russel Hampton.
But I mean, it's even like for those, for those that are also just listening and going, how do I continue to grow my club is, you know, that seems to be a really cool, like I personally, like with our club, this is something that I'm really passionate about and want to kind of get into. So Joe, maybe we talk off the air and we try to figure this out. But I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer and it helps everybody. It helps everybody obviously on the show. And then it helps Rotary. And then because you purchase the shirt, you get 10% back, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, there's a real thing. There's a story there, right?
Yeah.
Of the reciprocity of the entire process.
Nice little circle.
Well, and I think when you were talking earlier about, you know, not everybody knows, or there's disconnects that we're trying to work through. And one is membership. And because being younger members, you go out and you have the same issues that you describe where people don't know it. They don't understand it. When you talk to them, the hard sell is hard.
Yeah.
You know, it just doesn't resonate where you need that easy entry point, but also, you know, there is the do business together aspect that doesn't get talked about a lot. And it kind of goes back to the marketing. Rotary we have to tell our own story better. We have to.
It's a negative byproduct.
Stop being a hidden gem.
But it's
Rotary
a negative.
Is what we want to say.
What it is it's a negative byproduct of the vast majority of the membership being outside of working age. Like that's just a reality. I mean, we're trying to change. We're changing that. And then one of the things is then maybe the connection is more cooperative and collaborative things like this and
Yeah.
getting Joe, you guys are an amazing resource. Like amazing resource. And
I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to have you on this podcast and talk more about Russel Hampton. It's been wonderful.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me. This is fun. I didn't know what to expect. So you guys were easy on me.
well, and we'll definitely have you on again.
Mhm.
We can do more brainstorming and like we could hear about how maybe things begin to kind of change and sway. And
yeah, I'd be happy to, even if I could do some sort of video tour for you. We could see behind the scenes.
How nice will that be? Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
It's just somebody in like a little hobbit closet. That's it. Like,
he's like, let me show you.
Hamster in the wheel.
There you
like,
go.
Oh, whoops, that's the wrong door.
No, wrong door. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a good place. We got dogs here. They're, we're pretty laid back.
Pet friendly. Look at that. Love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
This was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want to thank you for carving out time to connect with us and speak about Russel Hampton and the tie with Rotary.
And supporting the show. We appreciate the sponsor.
We appreciate it. Like I said, we're super accessible. So if anybody ever has questions or wants or needs anything, please don't hesitate to pick up the phone. I'm pretty sure if you go on to thebestclubsupplies.com, you can even find my specific contact info. What kind of company lets you get right to the president? That's crazy.
Yeah, no kidding.
We're
Look
nuts.
at that. The accessibility. That's incredible. Look at you putting that on air too.
I
That's
know.
awesome. Joe, thank you so much. It was such an honor. Hope you have a good rest of the day.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson. We'll be back.
Hello, and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
That was really interesting.
Joe was the man.
Yeah, that's it was fun to learn a little bit more about one of our sponsors and the work they've done in the
I love the legacy of the organization, all the son-in-laws that run it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It was fun too. He kind of had that aha moment when you brought up Rotarians themselves giving and how that donation back, like what it could look like.
Well, and sometimes you get into that routine for so long of service and you just stop being creative. And sometimes it just takes that little bit.
And something I should mention more is that 10% back to Rotary, which we don't always mention, which is a great thing. So check them out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. We'll have information in the show notes for you guys.
Sweet. Great show, guys.
Great show. As a reminder, you're listening to Searching for Service. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
And I'm Chad Larson.
As a reminder, it's time to stop searching
and start serving.
We'll see you next week.